Hey everyone, welcome to Motorcycology. My name's Jonathan. If you're new here, welcome. If you're a returning viewer, welcome back. Your support is greatly appreciated by everybody. So in today's video, it's going to be part 2 of working on this CRX's fenders and front grille. We're going to show some fiberglassing and also some epoxy stuff and how I can shape the epoxy into close to the final finish. So this video is part 2. I'm also working on part 3, which is going to be a little bit more about how to finish those panels. Then we're going to be working on the exterior of the panels, getting them ready for paint. So stick around for that. Let's get into this video and see how it goes. So since the last video, I have taken all the kind of undercoating or Z-barred or rust protection off this, even though it was plastic. So I used a wire brush. That's all done. Now I'm just going to wipe it down with some acetone before I start doing the fiberglass. There we go. That should be good for fiberglassing. For this one, I'm going to try the fiberglass matting material. It's a little bit more heavy duty. So just going to open it and then cut it to the shape and then start applying it. So for me, I'm just going to lay it out and kind of eyeball it when it comes to cutting it. Line that in there. There we go. Need another little piece for there. That'll work. Some of the leftover stuff to go up here. That's the general idea. Now I'm going to get the fiberglass resin set up and we'll get this thing going. So for this, for every 30 milliliters, you need 12 drops of this hardener. So let's get ready to do that. I'm going to remove this first so that I can soak that stuff down and then apply it. This is going to be my mixing container here. So I've got a pretty decent hunk in there. Got some cheap brushes to help out. These brushes are going to be one time only and then throw away. Put the lid back on this. And do some guesstimate here. Use this thing to pop the hole in it. There we go. I'm going to put about 30 drops in this little bit here. 2, 3, 4, 5, whoops. I think we're good. Mix it up with some random piece of wood. Should be good. Spread some of this thing on here. I've got my base coat down there. Time to lay in the fiberglass. It's just going to stick really nicely to this. Perfect. Stick the other pieces on. This guy here can got most of it getting glassed in here. Now I'm going to dump the remaining on it. Dump the remaining amount and spread it in. So just pouring the resin on this relatively thick fiberglass matting. I chose this for the fenders because I wanted it to have a harder shell on the inside of the fender once it's done, because hopefully it'll prevent it from cracking from people either leaning on it or the regular wear and tear from the road vibrations and stuff like that. So I'm taking my time to make sure that I get this heavy duty fiberglass interwoven random mesh completely saturated with the resin. When I'm happy with that, it's time to have it set overnight or longer than that. So in my case, I'm expecting at least 24 hours for this stuff to start to harden up. And when it's hardened and pretty much set, then that almost finishes the job on it. So my intent, I will trim around where you see the extra fiberglass around the wheel wells. And also before I start working on the other side, I'm probably going to spray paint this a black color just to even out the whole side of this fender to be one solid black color. So that's the process, and it's just a matter of getting organized and keeping it going. This is what it's looking like. And now we're going to move on to fiberglassing the other piece. That's what it's looking like right now. It's nice and wet, and that's going to dry overnight, and that'll be nice and solid once it's done. Let's go do the front grille part. Here's the front grille. It's relatively solid as it is right now, but the fiberglass is going to go inside it, and I'm going to use the fiberglass cloth on this one. So let's do that one. That's the fiberglass cloth. It's a little bit lightweight compared to the other stuff, but I'm going to try this one out just to compare them both. That's what this stuff looks like. Super shiny. It's nice. So just lay it out and cut it out. Nice. It's pretty good. All right, let's test fit this. Good, good, good. So far, pretty good. What I notice about this fiberglass cloth, it's a lot easier to work with, easier to cut, easier to lay out the section that you're looking for, and it's a lot less messy as far as long fiberglass pieces flying all over the place. So probably not as sturdy, but I don't need that extra heavy-duty strength on the front of this grille for this car. So all I need is a relatively light, I mean, this is normal fiberglass, but relatively light coating for the inside, and I think I'll be good to go with that. So progress is being made. I'm just doing the final shaping of it, and then I'll be ready to put the resin on it and get this stuff in there so it can set overnight. Also, what you don't notice on the video is how strong the polyester fiberglass resin actually smells. So super, super smelly stuff in a not offensive smell, but it's kind of got that chemical fiberglass smell. But it lingers for a long time, like several days after doing this. So something you want to do outside or in your garage for sure. This is where we are with this thing here. It's basically cut out to shape, and put the resin in there and get that done. Before I do that, I'm going to take off the Honda logo on there. Hopefully I can get these things off. Perfect. Not too difficult to get out. It's a little bit harder. Whoa, that one went flying. No idea where that is. There we go. There's the Honda logo. There we go. Nicely mixed up. Dump some on here. Spread it out. Looks good enough to spread the cloth down on it, fiberglass cloth. Let's get that down. Most of that in. Work on these parts here. Next job, smooth it in with the brush. More stuff on it, more fiberglass resin on it. All right, with this I'm going to put another coat on since I have lots of resin, so I'm going to cut another piece out. Especially good to put another piece down here and another piece over here. Lay that in like that. Nice. Couple more pieces. Another main piece down here. Why not? And another long piece down here. All right, last piece down here. All right, final area here. I'm just tapping the fiberglass cloth into the resin to make sure that it gets fully soaked with the resin. Easy to tell when it becomes kind of a translucent, almost transparent finished, then you know that it's soaked and ready to dry. So I've been doing this type of stuff for 30 something years. I started when I was in grade 9 working on cars, and I had, even back then, done fiberglassing, done body filler, and painting vehicles. So it's been an interest my entire adult life, I would say, high school and beyond. And I've always found it an interesting skill to have, and certainly a great hobby to have in order to stay interested in what you're doing and stuff like that. It's fun, and it gives you something to do and work that you can be proud of, I guess is a good way of saying it.
Keep on tapping it in there, getting it to soak up all the resin.
I'm really taking my time to make sure that I do a decent enough job on this, because I really do not want to be refiberglassing this particular part again. I don't think I'd be doing this in the first place, but these parts are impossible to find a good one used, and they just don't make these parts new anymore. There may be the odd company that has either a fiberglass reproduction or these days even a carbon fiber reproduction, but they're not cheap. They're hundreds and hundreds of dollars if you can find them.
There's the final wet piece, and now we just have to wait for it to dry. So that's going to give a lot of extra strength onto this thing, and looks pretty good. So I'm happy with it. There's the left fender as well. That should harden up really nicely. Well, I've decided to take off this fender as well, so I'm going to get that done the same time I'm doing the other ones. So I'm going to put a blue one on, so let's do that and see how it goes. I'm going to borrow the right fender of this CRX and use that on the red one. So I'm going to take that off. First I'm going to take this cover at least partially off. This cover I bought, I don't know, 30 plus years ago. I actually really like the color of this car. It's a nice blue color. I'll try and find the specific name of this color, but it's really nice. And having a look at this fender, there's absolutely no cracks on it. So this is the one I'm going to use temporarily on the right. There's a lot of good things about this little CRX here, but I just don't know what I'm going to do with it at the end of the day. So let's get that panel off and replace it on the red one. See how that looks. This panel is in nice shape down here too. It's got a few cracks on it, but overall, very, very good condition for something this year. So I'm going to take these off, take the lights off, and get it off. These are a number 10 metric. So should be real straightforward to get these off. Oh, surprisingly in there hard. One's a little bit easier to come out. This guy. Let's get this light out. These replacement lights, if you can find them, are well over $100 per light. This glass thing here, that glass lens, is the same, at least $100 if you can find them. So there's value to this car. Here we go. Those pieces go in there. This is broken, easy to repair. So now this fender is in amazing shape. Same for this, it's got that screw hidden under here. So I'm gonna lightly pry this out. Perfect. You can see the screw in there. I can take that out. There we go. That one's out. Oops, didn't mean to do that. Not a big deal. Next part, there's a screw behind here that holds the bumper on, so I'm just going to pry that off. Not too difficult. There we go. Oh, so we found a broken area in here, which has also been repaired. That's interesting. Okay, so there's two mounting spots here. That's great. I am going to repair this, I think, before I put it back on the CRX. So let's take these things off and then make a decision. Does not feel positive. No. Great. Hopefully I can do this without breaking it. I'm going to put some penetrant in there. Didn't take much. And there's one more screw that goes in here, which is that part of the panel. So time to put some penetrant on there and let it sit for a little bit so I don't crack this one off. See how that goes. All right, this one's loose. Well, it's not gonna break off anyway, I hope. There we go. That one's out. Gonna drill out the remaining part of this and hopefully that'll work fine. I guess that went through. Always surprising. That's perfect. Anyway. Okay, this panel should come out no problem now. There we go. This panel's off. And this panel, I'm going to wash it and then put it on the red car. So that tricky screw at the end is up. Now this thing should be able to pull that off, no problem. Oh yeah, super easy. There we go. Panel's off. All right, let's fit this one in. go. Nice. Perfect. That's it for now with the temporary blue fender on there, as I get ready to repair the red one and refinish and repaint it. So there we go. Oh, not quite finished. Got to put on the red strip here. Need some new tape, but I have some tape, so I'm just going to go and do that now. There we go. It'll just be a matter of sticking it in there like this. There we go. It's done. So let's stand back and have a look here. The temporary panel is in place. There's where we are with this. Let's go check out the other side. It's the true Franken car, made up of 3 different CRXs at this point. Okay, we're back in the garage working on these panels. The fiberglass has cured. It's nice and hard. It's not bad. It stretched a little at this area here, but that's fine. And same on this side. So there are a few areas like this area here which I'm going to rebuild and get back to looking like normal. So I don't have the part for that or the piece to epoxy back in there. And there's a few other places along the way, like this area here. It's pretty easy to fix. And we are going to do a little bit of work on this area here as well. I'm not too sure what I'm going to do, but I'll figure that out. And same on this area here. I'll bring the panel over here and we can have a look at that. Here's the fiberglass panel. This is the first one. So the left-hand side, this is dry. It's been dry for about a week, so fully cured. I'm going to trim this off, of course, and this one is the most significant, where I have to rebuild this entire side here. And remember, I put the tape on. That can all come off now as well. So this tape was just used to hold the pieces as close to level as possible. Keep them pinched together, and it seemed to have done a pretty good job on that. Man, this Gorilla Tape is super sticky. It's like, all right, let's pull this one off here. There we go. So from a panel integrity point of view, this stuff here is good to go. It's nice and hard, at least as hard as the original. I'm going to show you how I'm going to take this down and fill it with body filler, sand it down. I'm going to lightly sand down the entire panel. I've ordered replacement paint for the panels and for the entire car. So the paint itself cost me more, well, it cost me pretty close to $600. I will do a video on how to refinish these and paint them. I'm going back to the original color of this car, which is Rio Red. It's gonna look darker than this because this has been faded over the past 36 years. So I decided I'm gonna do the entire car and bring it back to new. I also have a quart of this silver stuff with the specs on it ordered, and that will be in soon. So not only is the red going to be redone, so is the silver at the bottom. These things here are coming off as well. These are just, they're not aftermarket, but they are option fender flares. So they come off, and there's a couple screws here, one here, and one over there, which I'll use to take the bottom parts off, and the rest I believe is just stuck on with double-sided tape, so that should pop off okay. So what I'm going to do now is try and rebuild these, and I'll show you the other panel, which I've done off camera. I wasn't too sure if I was going to do that, but I decided I'm going to do all the panels at the same time, and part of that was because of the investment in the paint. So this is the panel that I did off camera. It's the right-hand panel. I wasn't originally going to do it, but I decided to do it since I'm going to paint the entire car. So the fiberglass is almost cured. It's a little bit tacky, but it's not fully cured yet. It will. It came on really, really nicely. It went on nice. I've also been working on rebuilding the edges, and I'll show you what I mean. So in this particular case, this part was missing, and it has a hole that's in there as well. So I've used some steel stick by JB Weld. It's kind of like a putty material, but man, does that stuff ever dry super, super hard. So eventually I will sand this down and shape it a little bit better and drill a hole in there, and that will give me a good, almost factory looking edge, I guess. And same for this one. The hole was partially cracked, so I've refilled it with a super hard JB Weld. It will be sanded down and then a hole drilled through there. And finally on here, the same issue on this part is the part where the hole was also split, so I've rebuilt that as well. So that's what I need to do on the other panel. So on this particular panel, I want to rebuild this spot here a little bit, which is going to be very simple. And I want to fix this part here that has the split where the hole is. And I believe that is basically it, except for this major level here, which I'm going to think about how I want to do it. I think I'm going to put some backing along here temporarily, and that will give me a wall where I can put the epoxy against. So I'll use I think a cardboard backing, and maybe cover it in wax paper, and that way I'll be able to put the epoxy against it, and when it's cured, I'll be able to pull the cardboard off. So we'll see if that works. So let's try and rebuild this little part right here. So this is the product that I'm using, is the JB Weld steel stick. This stuff is seriously very, very good. Easy to use. It comes in a 2-color epoxy mix. Usually comes in a tube like this, and you just take one end off here, which is covered, and you can see that it's kind of black there and gray on the outside. So you really just cut off what you need, knead it up, and shape it. So I'm just going to cut off a tiny little bit here. So I'm just going to use a pair of scissors to cut it. It's as simple as do that. Cuts it off. That's the dual colors. So here's the black core that I was talking about and the gray on the outside. So you just knead it together. Takes like a minute to knead it together, I guess, at the most. And you know it's ready to go when you've got that gray black consistent color. Very similar as the other JB Weld stuff. You have about 5 or 6 minutes of working time, and then you can physically feel the chemical reaction where this starts to get very warm. And then shortly after that, it sets up. So I like to do the final shaping of it just as it's on the verge of setting up. It's a little bit firmer and easier to shape. So I'm going to be working on this area up there, and I'll just bring that into the camera a little bit closer. So that's ready to go. So the best way, like I tried to bridge it like that, doesn't work. So the best thing to do is just to put a solid clump in there and re-drill it, reshape the hole. Just allows this to have a much better bond. So right now it's still very malleable. It hasn't started to heat up yet. So I can use something like the back of this. Helps me shape the edge that I'm looking for on that side. And I'll do the same on this side. Helps me get it close. You can see what I mean. It flattens it out nicely. There, it's starting to heat up now. You can even feel it through the latex gloves. It's heating up and it's getting quite a bit firmer very, very quickly. Still very shapeable at this point. This is the stage that I like, where it's getting firmer, so you can start to shape it and get it really close to how you want it to look. Obviously the final shaping will be done with a sander to get the final shape to match the original part. Now it's really setting up. It's very warm and it's quite stiff now, if that's a word for this stuff. It's the perfect time to do the final shaping. So you can put a little bit of manual pressure on it, shape it, and it's seriously got some good temperature behind it right now. It's almost set. All right, it is almost too hard to shape now. It's still a little bit pliable, but not much. So let's have a closer look at this. So this is obviously very rough, but it's solid. It's a great repair for this type of material. It's already hard, you guys. It's a little bit malleable, but not much. Let's get this part shaped as close as possible is what we can do. So once again, just waiting for it to firm up a tiny bit and then we'll be good to go. I like using something that is flexible and smooth and allows you to at least contour it to the shape that you're looking for. The odor for this is not very strong. You can smell the epoxy in it, but it's not very strong. Unlike fiberglassing, super strong smell. It leaves the entire garage smelling like fiberglass resin for several days. Not something you necessarily want to do inside. It's starting to firm up a little bit, which allows me to shape it with a little bit more force. That's a pretty good trade-off. A little bit of epoxy from a roll and fills a very difficult to find part. But you can kind of get the idea where I'm going with that. So it's a easy to do plastic patch, which is going to be harder than the original material when it's done. So that's already firming up as we talk. So that's literally how simple it is. So I'm not going to necessarily show you all the rest of the stuff that I'm going to do. I'm going to move on to doing this crazy big piece. That's the worst area, and I got to figure out what I want to do with that. Hey everyone, that concludes part 2 of this video. It's a long process to redo these plastic panels. So I've got a paint update. It's now costing me $790 for the paint for that red CRX. That includes the primer and just the red paint, not the silver paint. That's going to be another couple $100, so it's adding up. Anyway, due to the length of these videos, I'm going to end this video now. I'm continuing working on it. I can give you a sneak peek on how it's going, and I'm in the process of making that video number 3 as we speak right now. So have a look at where I am just as a sneak peek. So if you remember in the other part of the video that I just featured, I was working on this area and building that area up. So that has now been roughly ground down and into shape. This thing is like a perfect, really strong patch there. That super big one that I was talking about, I took some time to progressively build that, and I'm really happy with the end results. Like I said, this is not sanded. This is just roughly shaped. But that's a solid piece of plastic there. It's looking really good. It's going to turn out great. So I'm happy with how that is coming. I will show you a bit more in the next video, but that's a sneak peek for now. So until the next video, thanks so much for being here, watching these videos and being part of the adventure. My main goal is the C3. I'm working on some projects on that, and I will have a video up on that real soon. In the meantime, I had to take care of the original car that I bought when I was 25 years old, way back in 1980 something. So anyway, we'll catch you all in the next video, and thanks for being here. We'll see you later.